But that was not a sign of a bubble. A sign of a bubble is this graph over here. You see the red line is the US. That is the price over income, disposable income ratio, okay? In the US, when that is historically have been around 4.2. When it went up to 5.1, lots of people were very worried, okay? At 5, they were very worried because they know that mean reverts, okay? They've seen it in crises in the past, and it mean reverts. Well, Spain went from an average to 3.7, 3.8 to 7.1 now. In Barcelona, that number is 20. Okay, just for you to have an idea. So Barcelona is really in the league of the best cities in the world in terms of this ratio. It's difficult to find a city with such a high ratio. Paris has 14, just for comparison purposes. And a very important, so that was a vision of the fundamentals from the income side. This is a vision of the fundamental from an arbitrage perspective, from a financial perspective. And this is the rental, the rent to price ratio, what is the inverse of the price to earnings ratio, okay? And you can see that in the United States it went down up to around 3.2%, and that was very low for historical standard. Historical standard is around 5%, which is a reasonable number. In Spain, it's been around 2%. That means a price to earning ratio of 50. Okay, that's higher than the 1929 peak of the stock market, and higher than the bubble, the tech bubble, much higher than the tech bubble. Okay, it's true that the housing market in Spain is not competitive, and all you want to say about that, but still, a 50 is a large number. And the third point has to do with expectations. Okay, because I was saying that everybody here in this graph that we saw before had some type of crazy expectations. Now, Case and Schiller ran a survey for the United States, for 4 cities in the United States, asking directly people about what they thought of the prices of housing in the future, in the present and in the future, and what were the perception of risk and all this. So it's looking at the bubble directly, you know, looking at the eyes of the bubble directly. Okay, I know that many economists don't like to ask questions to people, but in this particular case, probably it's the only way to do that. I did the same with somehow different questions or more questions for 5 cities in Spain. Okay, so I'll put 2 cities of Case and Schiller and 2 cities of my own work here. You can see that in terms of the characteristics of the markets, first-time purchases are more in the case of the Spanish cities than in the case of the United States. For obvious reasons, the American people move from house to house more often than in Spain. It's like 12 times in their life. In Spain, it's like 1. Okay, so...
what does the 46 mean?
46?
Yeah, the 93 or 46, what are these?
Oh, I'm sorry, the 46 is the percentage of first-time purchases. The 93.3 is the percentage of people that bought that as a primary residence.
Percentage
of 100, over 100.
Total purchases.
Of the total people in San Francisco. So in San Francisco we have 100. So 93% of them, okay, is the primary residence. They bought that house as the primary residence, the house for which they are asked, which is the latest house that they bought. Okay, at that point. So these are percentages in terms of the city. So in terms of primary residence, everybody was, or most of them, that house was the primary residence. So they didn't buy it for investment purposes, okay? Still, you're going to see what they say about what the expectations of the price in the future are going to be. Was investment a major consideration in buying that house? 52% in San Francisco say yes, 48% in Boston say yes, in Barcelona 48%, in Madrid 50%, very similar percentages. Now, expected appreciation of your house in 1 year. This is 2003. The beginning of the end of the bubble in the United States is around the beginning of 2006. My numbers are 2005. The beginning of the end is the middle of 2007. Okay, not in terms of prices, but in terms of quantities, because prices are more resistant to go down. In the United States, in San Francisco and Boston, they were expecting like 6%, 7% in 1 year. In Barcelona and Madrid, they were expecting 16%, 15%. Average for the next 10 years, 15% in the United States, 25% in these Spanish cities. That's yearly. That's the average yearly increase in prices. Yes, I was talking about irrational expectations, so that is pretty irrational. Now, what is the perceived increase in price in the city? So even their perceptions in most of the cities, this is not a question that, this question wasn't asked in the United States, but I include that question, and even the perception that they have of how much the price is growing in their city is very far away from the reality. So in reality, in Barcelona, the price was going up at 16%, but they thought the price was going up at 27%, okay? So that was pretty... Except in Valencia. I can explain that. I can explain that. Okay, so that was the America's Cup, okay? I'm sorry, that was the America's Cup. It's a special event. Okay, so bubble what bubble? 94.5% of the people interviewed in Spain thought that the house was overvalued, okay? Housing was overvalued. Still, they expected an average of 24.3% of annual increase for the next 10 years. Do you know of any sign of a bubble better than that one? Is there any other sign of bubble better than that one? In experiments, you see that many times. So all the experiments that they do with asset pricing, they all generate this kind of bubble. So it's exactly the same thing. I have to run, okay? So there were lots of popular fallacies about housing that also favor this bubble. Then flipping houses could give a return of 800%, which is not bad. Even though Greenspan would always say that it's impossible to have a bubble in the price of housing because transaction costs are very high. When the return is 800%, I'm sorry, I don't care how much is the transaction cost. Okay, and some popular fallacies in Spain, I will not stop here. Let me just go to credit because this is I was asked to talk about Spain and I haven't said anything very specific of Spain. Let me tell you just that in Spain, the number of housing started in Spain is more than the sum of the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and Italy together. And that in Spain, the housing start in 2006 was 865,000. And in the United States, last year was 1,100,000. I don't have to tell you what is the difference in population between these two countries. And then the most important thing is the housing sector absorbed most of the credit of the economy, of the Spanish economy. And it's amazing how fast that has gone up. You have here the evolution from 1992. In 1992, counting everything, real estate activities, construction, and mortgages, that was 35%. And at the peak, we reached 60%. It was absorbing most of the credit. So construction and housing activities were more than double the industrial credit. Can you believe a country like that? That's a nonsense country, basically. Okay, so credit supply and housing prices, and I will finish with this. Credit had a lot to do with what happened with prices. And I think this paper by Bian and Sufi with the data at postal code level is the best evidence that we have up to now of that. And they show that if you take latent demand, that they called latent demand in 1996, so the quantity in every postal code of credits that were not given, okay, rejected, and you try to explain with that the increase in prices in the future, so from 2001 to 2005, on those postal codes were the ones that the prices were up faster, okay, and at the end of 2005, where the number of repossessions was growing faster also, okay.